Welcome to China Truths. In this episode, we will bring you the following story. Senior Chinese officials sharing wives. Now, let's dive into the details. China Truths. Senior Chinese officials sharing wives. Today's seriously corrupt Chinese officials, in addition to their insatiable greed for power and money, have also left a common impression on the outside world. All of them are lustful and promiscuous people. In 2008, Southern People Weekly published a report on the Mistress Gate of senior officials. Among them, the wife of a senior official from the Midwest of China revealed that the government compound where she lives is like a widow's village with almost no men at home on weekdays. She said, the ladies were discussing together and discovered that one official had not gone home to sleep for 8 months. One of the most publicized cases was that of Su Qiao, the former director of the Jiangsu Provincial Department of Construction, who maintained relationships with 146 mistresses. After Su Qiao played with these women, he recorded them all in his diary. The number 146 was officially disclosed. How many more were not disclosed? It's scary to think about it. Did the promiscuous culture among senior Chinese officials appear later? Of course not. The century-old history of the CCP is also a history of debauchery. Today, we will talk to you about things that few people know. Shi Tzuantong was one of the founders of the CCP and joined the Shanghai Communist Group in 1920. His wife, Wang Yizhi, was called the flower of the Communist Party of China back then. According to the memoirs of Sima Lu, a well-known expert on the history of the CCP, around 1925, Zhang Tailei of the Communist International or Comintern was returning to China as a Russian translator and passed through Shanghai. Shi Tzuantong invited him to his home for dinner. Zhang Tailei was attracted by Wang Yizhi as soon as he saw her, and seduced Wang Yizhi, and soon the two lived together openly. This was a big commotion in the early days of the CCP. At that time, because Zhang Tailei was a staff member of the Comintern claimed that as long as Zhang Tailei performed well at work, others had no right to interfere with his private life. Shi Tzuantong was so angry that he severed ties with the Communist Party and became blind. It wasn't until he remarried that his life returned to normal. He changed his name to Shi Fuliang, which means his eyes regained their brightness. During the same period, many high-level officials of the CCP engaged in extramarital affairs. Let's talk about Caiyasen and Xiang Jingyu. Sima Lu mentioned that Caiyasen's wife, Xiang Jingyu, was a former member of the Central Committee of the CCP. In Shanghai, the couple lived in a house with Peng Shuji, who was single. Peng Shuji was the propaganda minister of the CCP Central Committee at the time. Xiang Jingyu was known as the most capable female activist in the early days. In public, her words were moving and dignified. Once she returned home, she had to fool around with 2 CCP dignitaries at the same time. The matter reached the central government. Chen Duxiu, General Secretary of the CCP Central Committee, asked Xiang Jingyu whether she loved Cai or Peng. Xiang Jingyu said, "I don't know." The book The Source of Strength, published by Shanghai People's Publishing House, said, in June 1925, Caiyasen was overworked due to leading the May 30th movement in Shanghai, and his asthma and stomach problems recurred, so he had to leave Shanghai for Beijing to recuperate. On the other hand, in addition to serving as the central propaganda minister, Peng Shuji also supervised the work of the Central Women's Committee, and the person in charge of the work of the Women's Committee happened to be Xiang Jingyu. After Caiyasen left Shanghai, Peng Shuji and Xiang Jingyu quickly developed feelings. 3 months later, Caiyasen, whose condition was in remission, returned to Shanghai with Chen Duxiu. Xiang Jingyu admitted to Caiyasen that she had an improper relationship with Peng Shuji. Later, Caiyasen and Xiang Jingyu went to Moscow at the same time and divorced soon after. Caiyasen married Li Yichuan, the wife of another early CCP leader Li Lisan, while Xiang Jingyu married a Mongolian man. Sima Lu revealed that there was a saying at the time that Li Lisan deliberately gave his wife to him in order to comfort Caiyasen and win over Caiyasen politically. Cai Feng, the early leader of the CCP, also committed acts of destroying other people's marriages and seizing their wives. Chen Xinren, the former dean of the Foreign Affairs University of the CCP, recorded in his memoirs that in 1935, he married Fang Ji in Tokyo, Japan, and gave birth to a baby girl a year later. At that time, Chen Xinren was 20 years old and Fang Ji was 17 years old. After the outbreak of the anti-Japanese war, the CCP arranged for Chen Xinren to work in the new 4th Army's military headquarters, and Fang Ji went to Baoji, the northwest rear area, to engage in underground party work. Fang Ji was promised that once her job was over, she could be transferred to the new 4th Army's military headquarters to reunite with Chen Xinren. But for 3 or 4 years, this promise was not fulfilled. Just when Chen Xinren was worried about his wife, something happened that made him even more distraught. One day, Rao Shushi, the political commissar of the new 4th Army, met him and said that he could be approved to get married separately. Chen Xinren was puzzled. "I have a wife. What is getting married separately?" Only then did Rao Shushi say, "You have to know that Fang Ji, who is now renamed Wang Qian, has long been transferred to Kaifeng's office to serve as his private secretary. They have been together, it was a consensual matter, and now it's a done deal." Only then did Chen Xinren find out that he had been cheated on. He felt like a bolt from the blue and said angrily, "I don't understand that such a bad behavior that chills the hearts of frontline commanders and soldiers happened in that noble revolutionary place." Soon, Chen Xinren learned that Kaifeng not only seized his wife Fang Ji, but also ruthlessly abandoned his wife Liao Suguang, who had shared the same joys and sorrows with him, and ordered the guards to drive her out of the house. Later, Kaifeng also abandoned Fang Ji. Issues of officials sharing wives can be found everywhere in the history of the CCP, and they are not the most chaotic, only more chaotic. In 1998, the 4th issue of Contemporary magazine published an article Diandian Memory by Luo Diandian, the daughter of former CCP General Luo Ruiqing, revealing the scandal of Mao Zedong condoning incest among his subordinates. The article wrote that before the Cultural Revolution, Luo Diandian met a girl named Chen at a beach. Her uncle was a senior general of the People's Liberation Army. Ms. Chen's lover, Brother Yang, later revealed that Ms. Chen was occupied by her uncle for a long time because she was staying at her uncle's house. Brother Yang finally gave up on this relationship because he was afraid of Ms. Chen's uncle's power. Because he discovered that even though the higher-ups knew that this man was occupying his niece, no one dared to deal with him because he was close to Mao Zedong. Even Chief of General Staff Luo Ruiqing could only criticize him behind his back as a shameless person with many bad records, but could not actually intervene. The article said, "That old man has not received the punishment he deserves and continues to do shameless things. What is even more outrageous is that he continues to sit in a high position." I believe everyone has heard about the chaos in Mao Zedong's personal life. In Yenin, something like this happened. At the end of January 1937, the American female journalist Smedley arrived in Yenin and began her more than 7 months of interviews, which also brought variables to the relationship between Mao Zedong and his wife He Zijian. According to Sima Lu's memoirs, under the guidance of Zhou Enlai, Mao Zedong danced with Smedley. After a few steps, their faces touched each other. Zijian was filled with rage. She rushed up to Smedley and slapped Smedley in the face. She cursed again and again, "You foreign bitch, you went to China to seduce men. Here I am, I will tear you apart." Mao Zedong pushed Zijian away and shouted loudly, "Drag her out. If she acts wild again, I will kill her." Mao Zedong was really angry and vowed never to see Zijian again. She cried and made trouble all day long, and the party central committee held a meeting to discuss what to do about this matter. So it was decided to send Zijian to study in the Soviet Union. She said that I would not go anywhere, but Deng Yingchao tried to persuade her. In the end, she followed Deng to the Soviet Union. Not long after Zijian left, Mao Zedong met Jiang Qing under the guidance of Zhou Enlai. Time passed, and in 1989, Jiang Zemin, who ascended to the highest position of power in the CCP through the blood of the June 4th students, was also a lecherous and promiscuous person. The scandals involving Jiang Zemin and singer Song Zuying have already spread around the world. Under Jiang Zemin's leadership, he promoted a large number of seriously corrupt individuals, including Zhou Yongkan, former member of the Standing Committee of the Politburo of the CCP and Secretary of the Central Political and Legal Affairs Commission, Su Kaiho and Guo Buxiong, former members of the Politburo of the CCP and Vice Chairman of the Central Military Commission, Chongqing Municipal Party Committee Secretary Bo Xilai and Sun Zhengkai, former Director of the General Office of the CCP Central Committee, etc., are all lecherous and promiscuous people. Both Eastern and Western traditional cultures attach great importance to marriage ethics. Chinese people have to worship heaven and earth when they get married, while Westerners have to swear to God in church when they get married. That is to say, no matter in China or the West, marriage must be recognized by the gods of heaven and earth. However, Marx, the teacher of the CCP, taught communists to make the most complete break with traditional concepts. They did not believe in or worship gods, and they did not believe that marriage needed to be approved by the gods of heaven and earth, and they became very casual in dealing with gender relations. Marx and Engels, the ancestors of the CCP, were both lustful men. The CCP has inherited this gene. In its century-old history, lewd and promiscuous incidents have emerged one after another.